Good morning, guys. So, once again, I'm welcome you all for this online class. So, I like to introduce today the object-oriented concepts in Java. So, first of all, we recollect what are the topics we have seen in previous classes. So, in previous class, we have just seen the introduction to Java. So, what are the evolutions, the history of Java, and difference between Java and C, difference between Java and C++, characteristics of Java, and a simple Java program to print a hello world, and then how to compile and execute a Java program. So these are the various topics we have seen in previous class. So I think you are all clear with these topics. So we move on to the basics of OOPS concept. So these are the topics which you are going to see today. So OOPS is an object-oriented programming concept which makes you to write a program very simple and easy. So these are the various basic concepts in OOPS: objects, classes, inheritance, polymorphism, encapsulation, and data abstraction. So these are the topics which you are going to see today in brief. So we start with object. So way we consider everything as an object in Java. You know that we will be considering everything as an object while you are writing a Java program. Because if you consider everything as an object, it will be easy to identify the state and behavior of your object. That is, you can easily identify your variables and methods. So once you are easy to identify the variables and methods, it will be easy to write a program. So this is a major portion of your program. So once you are identified the variable and method, it makes easy to write your program and easily. So we can easily identify the variables and methods of the object in program. An object is a software bundle of related states and behavior. So once the object is identified, we can easily define the variables and methods of that object. For example, if you are writing a program for a fan, and if the fan is considered as an object, you can easily identify the characteristics or state of your fan. So the fan has the characteristics as color, model, company name, number of wings. So these are the variables which can be identified for the object fan. And behaviors. The behaviors are nothing but the functions of your fan can be easily identified. So the functions of your fans are on, off, maximum speed, minimum speed. Okay, so these are the functions of your fan. So once you consider the fan as an object, it will be easy to identify their variables and methods. Once you identify this, you can write easily the program. And next, class. So class is nothing but a blueprint or a prototype for the which objects are created. So the class is a blueprint or a prototype, or we can tell the class defines the variables and methods that are common to all the objects of certain kind. For example, to explain the relationship between the object and class, here is an example. So in this example, we can easily identify the relationship between class and object. So first of all, we consider class dog. So here we have a class called dog, and the dog has a common characteristics: breed, size, age, color. These are the variables characteristics of the dog. These are the variables, and the functions, that means the methods of the dog, that means the behavior of the dogs, are called as a functions: eat, sleep, sit, run. So we have defined a class dog which contains a common characteristics and common behaviors of the dogs. So from this class dog, we can define a different kind of objects, that means a different kind of breed in a dogs. So here I have defined three objects for the class dog. So here is a three different kind of breeds, which are the three different kind of objects. But these three objects are sharing the common characteristics and common behavior of the dogs. So this is a relationship between the class and the object. And next one is inheritance. So inheritance, as you know, that inheritance is nothing but a reusing of the code. So it is a mechanism in which one class is allowed to inherit the features of another class. You can inherit the properties of the another class in a new class. So that is called inheritance. there are different kind of inheritance in Java. So single inheritance, multiple inheritance, hierarchical inheritance. So these three inheritance are supported by Java, whereas multiple inheritance and hybrid inheritance are not supported in Java, but it is achieved by through interfaces. So the interface is a concept which replaces the multiple inheritance. So as in the previous class, I have told in the different the features are available in Java. The multiple inheritance is not allowed. I have explained in previous class itself. So because if there is a two superclass and one subclass, if there is a same name in a superclasses, functions in the same superclasses, it cannot be inherited in a subclass. So there will be confusion in the compile time. So that is why the multiple inheritance is not allowed in the Java. So this is achieved by using a interface. Similarly, hybrid. So hybrid also has a multiple inheritance. So this is also cannot be supported in Java, and it can be achieved by using interface. So these are the type of inheritance in Java. The main purpose of inheritance is code reuse. So these are the examples of inheritance. So single inheritance. Here we have a class A and class B, which extends the class A. That means class B is inheriting the properties of class A. So in the class B, in the main function, you're just going to access the properties of A class. So this is called as a single inheritance, as one superclass and one subclass. One superclass A and one subclass B. Multi-level inheritance. So multi-level inheritance is nothing but a class A is defined and then a class B which extends the class A. And the class B is inheriting the properties of class A. And later we are defining a class C which extends the class B. So this is now the C is now inheriting the properties of B. So similarly, if the C object can also access the properties of A. So this is called multi-level inheritance. So one superclass, one intermediate superclass, and one subclass. Hierarchical inheritance. The hierarchical inheritance is nothing but one superclass and more than one subclass. So more than one subclass is going to inherit the properties of a one superclass. So here the class B and class C are the subclasses which is going to inherit the class A. So here the class A is a superclass and class B and class C is a subclass. This class B and class C is going to inherit the properties of superclass A. So this is called hierarchical inheritance. And next thing is a polymorphism. So polymorphism is a concept by which we can perform a single action in different ways. So that means this polymorphism is a derived word from Greek. Poly means many, morph means form. So polymorphism means many form. So this is the word polymorphism derived from a Greek. And there are two types of polymorphism in Java: a compile time polymorphism and runtime polymorphism. So compile time polymorphism is nothing but a method overloading, and runtime polymorphism is nothing but method overriding. So let us see what is this two type of polymorphisms. First, we go through compile time polymorphism, that is method overloading. So method overloading, we have two or more functions with the same name but different arguments. So in a class, we can have more than one function with the same name and with different arguments. Then argument must be changed on the basis of numbers, orders, and data types. So these functions are defined by their arguments. Whether the argument numbers will be different, the order will be different, or the data type will be different. So by this difference, the function will be differentiated. For example, here we have a class A in which we have defined a function f1 with the argument int x, and another function with the same name f1 with argument as int x and int y. So here the function name is same, but the arguments are different. Here we have only one argument and here we have two arguments. So this is how we differentiate the functions in method overloading. So here we have more than one methods with the same name. So this is called method overloading. So in main function, you are creating an object for a class A, and the class A object is calling the function f1 with a parameter 5. So this 5 matches with this first method f1, because here the parameter is pos 5 and there is only one parameter and it matches with one argument. So this function will be called. And similarly, the second function called a.f1 2, 3, this will call the second function which matches with the two argument int x and int y. So this is how the function call will be done in method overloading. So this is called method overloading, the method having the same name with different parameters. And next one is method overriding. We have two classes and both the classes have a function with the same name and same parameter. Inheritance is necessary. So this is a concept in which in two classes we have a function with the same name and same parameters, and when we have an inheritance, it is done. Before going to method overloading, we have to know what is upcasting. So upcasting is nothing but if the reference variable of a parent class refers to the object of the child class, it is known as upcasting. So for example, here we have a class A and class B which inherits the class A. Now we are creating an object for a class A, the superclass, a parent class. You are creating an object for a parent class A and you are referring the object of the child class B. So instead of you are referring parent class object, you are referring here a child class. This is called as upcasting. For example, we create an object like this. Here we are creating an object for a parent class A and we are referring the parent class object. But in upcasting, we are going to create an object for a parent class, but you are referring the child class B. So this is called upcasting. So this is what we have done in method overloading. You see an example. So in method overloading, we have a class B, which is a parent class with a function f1, method f1, and we have created a class A which inherits the class B. So here class A is a child class and B is the parent class. Now we have a function f1 in class A which is also similar to the class B. So here we have two classes A and B, but both the classes are having a function name called f1 and same parameters int x, int y arguments. The arguments are same. So this type of methods are called as a method overriding. Two classes having the same function name with same arguments or parameters. So now in the main function, I am creating an object for a parent class and I am referring the object of child class. So this is what upcasting. Okay. So now we have created an object for a parent class B and you are referring the object of child class A. And you are calling a function f1 with a parameter 5, 5. So this will refer the child class function f1, which we are printing the x into y. So the value 5 into 5 will be 25 is the output. So now you are using the object of parent class and you are calling the function, but the function which we are calling is referred by the child class. So this is called method overloading. So this is also known as a runtime polymorphism, whereas method overloading is a compile time polymorphism. While the compilation time itself, the function will be identified and the binding will be happen. The function called binding will be happen at the compilation time itself. Whereas this method overriding will be done at the time of runtime. So that is why it is called as a runtime polymorphism. And next concept is encapsulation. So encapsulation is in Java is a process of wrapping code and data together into a single unit. So otherwise, simply we can tell as a data hiding. For example, a capsule which is mixed of several medicines. Here is an image of a capsule which is hidden with several medicines. So this is called hiding. Here in encapsulation, creating a class is an example for encapsulation. A class is an entity which is going to wrap the data variables and methods into the single unit. So class is an example for encapsulation. We can create a full encapsulated class in Java by making all the data member of a class as private. So you know that access specifiers, we have 3 access specifiers: private, protected, public. So these are the access specifiers which will define the access limit of the user. So if you want to make your data to be hide, we can make them as a private in a class. If the data members are defined as a private, then all the data cannot be accessed outside the class. Now we can use a setter and getter method to set and get the data in it. So instead of directly accessing the data member, we can use a getter and setter method to access the data members. So this is called encapsulation. So advantage of encapsulation is it provides you a control over the data. So if you want to define whether if you want to access the data which is more value must be greater than 100, you can set by using an encapsulation. So you can access only the value greater than 100 from the user. So this type of control can be done in your data. So that is the advantage of encapsulation. It provides you the control of over the data. And second advantage is it is a way to achieve a data hiding. So it makes the hide of the direct access of the data is not allowed in encapsulation. When you make it as a private, you cannot directly access the data. So your data will be hidden to the user. Only they can access using your data members methods. And last advantage is the encapsulate class is easy to test. The unit tests happen by using this encapsulation. The testing is very easy. So these are the advantages of encapsulation. Here is an example for encapsulation. So I have created a class called encaps text. In this, I have defined 3 variables: name, ID number, age as a private. So these variables cannot be accessed outside the class directly. For that, we have created a methods called get age, get name, get ID number. So these are the functions for getting the value of the variables. And to assign a value for this variables, we have a set methods: set age, set name, set ID number. Through these methods, we are assigning a value to the variables. So we cannot directly access the variable and we cannot directly give a value to the variables. So using this get method and set method, we can give the value and get the value. So in my main function, I'm just created an object for the class, and using that object, I'm setting the value by using a set methods: object.set name, object.set age, object.set ID number. So this is how I set the value for the variables. And after that, I'm just getting the value of the variables by using the get name, get age. Okay, so this is how I access the data variable which are encapsulated. So this is called hiding the data. So once you declare a variable as a private, and that variables cannot be accessed outside the class directly, using the get method and set methods will be accessing the variables. So hiding the data is happened here. Our next concept is data abstraction. So data abstraction is a process of hiding certain details and showing only the essential information to the user. So we are not going to show all the data or all the information to the user. Only the essential informations are given to the user, and we are hiding certain data of the variable. So this is happened by using the abstract class and interfaces. Abstract can be achieved with the abstract class and interfaces. So we use an abstract keyword. We use an abstract keyword as a modifier to the class and methods. So abstract keyword is used to make the class and methods as a abstract class and abstract method. So what is an abstract class? So abstract class is a restricted class that cannot be used to create an object. You cannot create an object for the abstract class. So as some ordinary classes we can create an object for the ordinary classes, but in abstract class you cannot create an object. To access it, it must be inherited from the another class. So when you declare an abstract class, that class cannot be directly accessed or instantiated. We had to inherit that class by a subclass, and then we can, using the subclass, we can access that superclass, that abstract class. And next, abstract method. Abstract method can only be used in an abstract class. So these abstract methods are available or used only in the abstract classes and interfaces, and it does not have any body. So we don't define the function methods, only we declare the prototype of the function in the class. The body is provided by the subclasses. These methods are defined in the subclasses which are inherited by the in that class. So directly we don't have the definition of these methods. Only the subclasses which are inherited this class will have the definition. So these are the abstract class and abstract method. So example for data abstraction. So here I have a class A which is defined as an abstract, and it contains a method called sum, which is also an abstract method. And here we have only the prototype of my function sum. I didn't define my function, I have only declared the function here. So as in the previous, I defined that abstract method can be used in an abstract class only, and it does not have any body. So similarly here we have declared the function, and the body is not, the definition is not given here. Here the class B, which is inheriting the class A, will have the definition of this method. So class B extends A, so inheriting the class A, and here we have the definition of the function sum int x and int y. We are printing the sum of x plus y, and in main function I am creating an object and calling the sum method. So this is how we use the abstract class and abstract method. So I think you will have a clear idea about the basic concept of OOPS. So I kindly recollect the topics which you have seen now. So the basic concepts in OOPS are object. So object is nothing but an entity of a class, or it is a bundle of a software which contains a variables and methods. So once you declare an object, we can easily identify the variable and methods. So the class is nothing but a blueprint or a prototype of the object of same kind. So you have seen a relationship between object and class by using an example called dog. You can create a class for a dog which has a common characteristics and common methods functionalities, and we can create a different kind of objects, different kind of dogs. So that shows the relationship between object and class. And next one is inheritance. Inheritance is nothing but a class can inherit the property of another class. That means a subclass will inherit the properties of the superclass. Otherwise, you can tell a child class inherits the properties of the parent class. So there are different kind of inheritance: single, multiple, multi-level, hybrid, hierarchical. In this single, multi-level, and hierarchical are supported by Java, whereas multiple and hybrid are not supported by Java, but it is achieved by using a concept called interface. In later class, I'll be explaining what is interface and how we can handle the interface in the Java program. And then polymorphism. So polymorphism is nothing but it's a Greek word that means a many form. Polymorphism is nothing but a many form. You can perform a single action in many form. Okay, so there are two type of polymorphism: a compile time polymorphism and runtime polymorphism. So compile time polymorphism is nothing but a method overloading, and runtime polymorphism is nothing but a method overriding. So method overloading is nothing but you can have a class containing more than one function with the same name but different parameters or different arguments. Okay, so it differs by the arguments. So the name of the functions will be same, but the number of arguments or type of the arguments will be differ. So this will be while the compilation time itself, the compiler will identify the function call and binding will be happen in the compilation time itself. So this is called compile time polymorphism. Whereas in runtime polymorphism, the method overriding two classes having a function with the same name and same parameter. So both the classes are having a same method with the same name and with same parameters. In this, we will be using upcasting. Upcasting is nothing but when you create an object for a parent class but you are referring to the object of the child class. So the object is created for a parent class, but it is referring the child class. It is called as upcasting. So this is done in the method overriding. So this will happen when you run a program. This function, this object reference will be happen at the time of runtime. So that is why it is called as a runtime polymorphism. So we have seen an example for polymorphism. And next one is encapsulation. Encapsulation is nothing but hiding the data in a single unit. So for example, creating a class, we are wrapping up the variables and methods into a single unit called class. So that is called encapsulation. To make a pure encapsulation, we can make all the data member as a private. If you make all the data members as a private, you cannot access that variables outside the class, but we can access the variable by using the get method and set methods. So this is how we hide the data. And last one is a data abstraction. Data abstraction is nothing but you're not going to show all the information, only the essential information is given to the user. So by using an abstract keyword, we'll make a class as an abstract and method as an abstract. So abstract class is nothing but to which we cannot create an object. So that means you cannot instantiate your class. The class cannot be instantiated. An abstract method is nothing but it will be available in abstract classes. So abstract method has only the prototype or declaration of the function method. The body of the function will not be available in the abstract function, but the definition will be given in the subclass which is inherited the abstract class. So we have seen an example for this abstract class and abstract method. So these are the basic concept of OOPS. And I think you are all clear with this idea. If there is any doubt, just you can mail me. And my mail ID is umesh.r@sedu.ac.in. So thank you. So we'll be seeing in next video with other topics of Java. Thank you.